Hello, welcome to Missionary Ramblings podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hendrix. My guest today is Kyle Gordon. Kyle and I became friends through the Peru mission trip at our church. We were in the same Sunday school class, but I think it was really the mission trips that helped us bond and become really good friends. And then, of course, he took over when I quit leading the teams, and he has led 11 trips. So he's an old hand at leading mission teams and going on them. So I'm thankful for him being with me today and appreciate him coming here to share some of his experience. And we'll probably have some good stories from the field and things like that. A couple of good laughs, hopefully, along the way. Yep. Anything you want to share with the folks before we get started?
No, I think that sums it up. We're ready to go.
All right, so this is the first podcast. What I like to do is start us off with a prayer to ask God to bless our conversation. So let's do that now. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all the things that you have blessed us with. I'm personally thankful for the fact that you blessed me with a friendship with Kyle and that we've been able to spend so many years involved in your work, your will for us. And all the things that has brought to our lives. We pray that today as we talk about that you bless it and that you hopefully help us say things that will reach out to people who may be considering joining a team, leading a team, or may have questions about what teams do. So with that, we just ask for your blessing on our conversation today. And we do that in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, Kyle, the tough question I always ask, why do you do this? Why do you go on mission trips?
There's, I guess, several answers. One that falls back is like you're called to do it, or I'm called to do it, right? But where does that come from? I don't necessarily know. I know it's just something that, feels right to me. It started at a young age, I guess. We were doing things in the high school that were mission trips. We've been to Mexico before, and so that ingrained a form of service, I guess, in my mind, on ways that you can reach out. And so it stuck, but because it went into college, we did the same type of service mission trips. And then when you kind of get out of college, you spend years sometimes floundering, looking for the right group to associate with. We're not even thinking about, I guess, mission trips. And then fortunately for me, I was able to befriend you, I guess, to a certain extent, and then get back into the kind of foreign mission that way. So sometimes I don't know. It's, especially when you go repeatedly, you go and sometimes you think it's a habit and you're doing it just out of habit. But as you talk to other people that do it, you realize that's not really why you go. You end up realizing that you've been touched at some point in the process, and God touches you to go and spread His word and to show His love to other people. And I think that's ultimately, subconsciously, what keeps driving me back. There's so many things you can do, and there's tons of things you can do locally. But there's also tons of things you can do not locally.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you hit on the point that, you're not sure you felt an exact calling per se. So nobody was hitting you over the head with a 2x4 mystically and saying, you're supposed to do this, supposed to go. Because we've had quite a few people on the trip over the years who've been the exact same way. They haven't exactly known why they felt they wanted to do this. They weren't sure about it. Yours came from the fact that you had done it as a youth and you wanted to get back into it and that you enjoyed that kind of stuff. And most of those people who felt the same way or were questioning why they were going, they have been on many trips since. Yeah. And to this day, they may say, I've never really understood whether I had a true calling or not. Now, what I can say is you've had a calling, in my opinion, for the leadership aspect. Right. You and I are different types of leaders. And that's a good thing. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I was the kind of leader that could get it started. I was kind of a, take everybody by the throat and, metaphorically speaking, and kind of force our way into this.
Right.
And then, after a couple of years, we got the hang of everything, and we were running on a certain kind of cruise control almost. We figured it all our major things out, our fundraising. And when you get to that level, the kind of person that I was not the good leader. I mean, I could still get the things running and doing, but you needed somebody who's probably a little more laid back, somebody who's a little more, I would say, fun to hang out with and do things than I was. And that was you. You came in and kind of brought that level into the leadership role, and that was perfect because we were at the stage where that type of leader was what we needed. So I feel personally that you were called to the teams because that was what you were going to eventually find, was you were going to be that leader that we needed for the long term.
And it was it's just a matter of opportunity, and the opportunity was there, so take it. And then once you've done it, like you said, once you've done it a couple times, you don't want it to stop. You don't want that opportunity to not be there for other people.
Right.
And so when that opportunity rose to lead, right, that was we've got to, that they need us in Peru in this case. They need us. They need that repeat customer, visitor, to let the boys know that there's somebody out there that really cares. Even if it's just for a week. If you keep doing that repeatedly, they start understanding that it's not just they're not alone. No matter how many miles away or any kind of language barrier or things like that.
That's a great point. I also want to just could dive right into right now. I run into a lot of people who talk about the mission vacation versus what we actually do. I mean, we may take some time off and have some fun and do all that kind of stuff, but we're there to work. And our particular mission trips are actual physical work type trips. Yeah. They're not always about vacation Bible schools or things like that. We do a lot of physical labor as well.
That's right.
But the main aspect of that I want to get into is one of the real big differences to me that makes short-term mission trips effective as opposed to those that aren't is the fact that we're going every year to the same group and working with the same boys as best as possible. And how important is that to Scripture Union of Peru?
Yeah, I get emails repeatedly from Paul, their director, former director, just thanking us for our continued, visits for the last 15 plus years. He says there's nobody else that does that. That it's unique in their experience of organizations that will continue to come, even when things get a little hairy and out of control. We still come and we still do what we can. And to your point about we're there to work, right? And I think that happens. I think as we've gotten mature, or as our demographic and the team has matured, our physical work isn't as stressful as it used to be. Because we used to do that and do a little bit of Bible school, I think. And now we kind of split it almost, I say 50-50, where you work hard in the mornings and then in the afternoons you're doing a full afternoon of vacation Bible school. But some of that is all that work we did the initial years. We've built all the things that need to be built in their sites. We've laid the foundation for everything. And so there's no real big construction projects anymore. It's smaller maintenance type things. So the brute force that we had the first 5 to 6 years isn't needed as much for the sites as now that we've gone in years 5 through 10 or 5 through 15. They need to maintain things. So maintaining things isn't as physically robust. But that's really kind of why we also shifted a little bit to more complicated VBS things, I guess you could say, where we're planning more skits and more crafts and activities and things like that to spend time with the boys. Because ultimately it comes down to, yes, we want to do good work on the site and help them maintain it, but we really want to spend time with the boys as much as humanly possible, because that's what not just leaves an impact on them, it leaves a huge impact on the team members.
Right. And that going every year, we've talked to both, I think, Paul and Billy about the fact that by coming every year, they see us return. I mean, we come one year, it's great. They play games with us, they love us, but we come back that next year and do the same stuff. We come back the year after, and the boys who are there see that kind of stuff, and they start to understand a little bit better, I think, about God's love by seeing that action.
Yeah, I agree totally, because we've got, I mean, there's boys that we met the first year we went that are a part of some of the team members' lives, you know.
Right.
One is, I mean, you know, Fran, we had twins that first year and that third year when we went to Puerto Alegria. And she's now godparent or godmother to their kids, you know,
Right.
stuff like that. And it's just, and they communicate regularly, you know, several times a week, whether it's text or whatever. I just, you know, you don't see that. You don't think that it could happen, but it does. And it's those kind of things that you know you're starting to make an impact on somebody's life. You can't do that to everybody, but it can happen.
Yeah, one of the personal stories I have along that line, Roy Rogers.
Yeah.
Roy Rogers was a key element in our first year because he was an older boy. He had a great personality. Everybody loved hanging out with Roy Rogers. He was great at doing a lot of different things with both the kids and with the team there. And then every year we kept going back and seeing Roy. And Roy eventually moved out of the system.
Yeah.
He got adopted by another family that was doing something at a different site. But he went in the military, he went and got his college education. And we ran into him at that other site.
Yeah, that's the next thing.
And the first thing he wanted to do was get pictures with us.
Yeah.
Because he remembered all of us. He wanted more memories with us, and that really touched me personally because, you know, normally we're the ones having to ask to get the pictures made with the kids, and having that flip and having him, you know, come and want to get a picture taken with us, you know, and each one of us individually he knew from those early years was a big deal, and he had his phone out, you know, that whole day.
But I think we were just shocked that we ran into him at the other location at Chemo. It just was, you know, we didn't know at the time that's where he was, and then when you show up and that's where he is, it's just amazing.
And, you know, when you have that kind of long-term relationship with a group, you get all kinds of stories along that line. Some of them we don't even know, you know, because everybody has their own personal stories with the kids that they came into contact with over the years. So that's a fantastic thing. In addition, we've had some great relationships with some of the staff, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Case in point is the fact that we were going to one site in the mountains, and we had done some really tough jobs there. The year the Jeep broke down and we were carrying concrete bags up down hills. But towards the next year or two, well, my favorite story of the whole time, we had the situation when we did the lake.
Yes.
They wanted to clean the lake, and we were the only team they were even thinking about asking
to
clean the lake because it was a nasty, not fun job. And they figured we would be the only group that would ever think about saying yes to that.
Yeah, we didn't say no to anything. Right?
Yeah, and we did that, and we got a great experience, and they asked us to do some other repair work. But the experience of the time we went, and the leader came over and pulled me aside with you, I think, and said, we need you to build us a bridge. and you know, we hadn't known anything about this before we got there, and he wanted to basically turn the entire project over to us.
He did.
And he didn't want to design it. He didn't want to figure out. We had to go rummaging through their old boards where they had taken down buildings and figured out what was still salvageable, to figure out what boards we had to use to build the bridge with. But we built a bridge in a week because that's what he came to us. But he had trust in us, that he knew that we would do the job. We would do it as well as it could be done with what we had to work with. And to my knowledge, that bridge stood until they sold that property.
It should have.
Yeah.
It wasn't going anywhere. That was 2011, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was a great experience to have him come at us like that. And I know you had some like that as well, where they came to us and asked specific things that they thought we were better capable for because we had that long-term relationship.
Yeah, and I think our group. I mean, they've come to us several times asking us for things to do things, and it doesn't faze us, but they always seem shocked when we agree so easily And I remember asking, it's probably Billy or something one time, why is that such a big deal? Why are you surprised? He's like, well, nobody else will do that. All these other groups that come, it kind of goes to your vacation. They're not here on vacation, but they're here. They want to spend a little time, but they're not really here to do physical work typically. I mean, they're doing God's work, spending time with the boys, so that's fine. But yeah, they don't. I mean, they're not going. That's not their mission. Our mission is to provide any kind of structural, physical support as well as emotional support for the boys, I guess, and spiritual support that way.
I think this leads us into another good discussion topic about the fact that we have always asked them, where do they want us to go?
Yeah.
We have never dictated to them what we're going to do, where we're going to go. And that's the reason why we get these kind of requests from them, because, we put God first on this trip.
Yeah.
What does God want us to do? When I first started team, I had kind of a checklist of, whenever we were thinking about doing something. And the first thing was, how does it impact God? How does it impact the boys? How does it impact Scripture Union? How does it impact the people that are around Scripture Union who may see us?
Yeah.
And then the last question was always, how does it affect our team? Because we wanted to put all those other elements before us.
Right. And it's like what you said, we're always asking them, and again, that's foreign to them because they're used to people saying, oh, we're going to go to the Sacred Valley because we want to go to Machu Picchu again, or we're going to go here because, we're not going to the jungle. We're not doing, we're going to the nice high altitude where it's arid and comfortable and stuff. But that a lot of time depends on your team dynamic. If you've got to worry about health concerns and physical concerns, and maybe we should have done more than that. I don't know. But because there's some times in the jungle where we had people there that, maybe shouldn't have been there. Severe diabetics and things like that. But they were great team members.
Yeah.
I mean, they were tough enough to rough it and I say gamble, but trust the Lord's going to provide them and get them out of there. And sure enough, it's some of the better years. It's the years that we split up, where we had so many people, we had to send some people to Port Alegre in the jungle and some to the other site in Chemo. So, those are the things that stick out to me, is that anybody can go. We don't exclude anybody yet for any real reason, because there's always something that you can do to contribute. If we're doing physical work, not everybody can do physical work, and so there's plenty of other things that happen on the sites that people contribute in. They help cook, they help fix food, they help go grocery shopping, they help plant plants and things like that. That just, there's always something. They hydrate us when we are too dumb and stubborn to drink water or Gatorade on our own. So I think that's one thing that when the team really gels like that, you see the benefit, you see the greatness that it can be.
That's always been one of the amazing things to me on the trips, is you look at the people when you first start out, you don't know what everybody's skill set really is. In those early years especially. And we did fundraisers that were designed to help us gauge, what kind of leaders we had, what kind of worker bees we had, what kind of just people who could carry a load, that kind of stuff. But when you get there, it's amazing to me how everybody finds their spot.
Yeah, because personally, I know too well the struggle of not being able to do something physical and feeling like you're not contributing. Like that first year, I had the back surgery, so all that concrete work, all the sand and the concrete being moved, and I couldn't lift it, and I'm seeing everybody just palling and high-fiving and being part of that camaraderie, and I was left out. I felt left out, and that was just it left a mark on me of well, you're not here for that, you're here for other things. And I didn't realize it at the time until you're leading a couple of years into my leading or whatever of the team, and you realize, oh wait, that was me the first year of not everybody can do everything, and that's perfectly okay. Everybody has a role to play, I forget about that. I forget about that often. I forget how, I think I block things out because how bad I felt that first year that I couldn't help. I couldn't do some of that physical stuff that I thought I should be able to do. But just
But
helped
you
me later
did find
down.
a role. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you were basically the leader of our painting and sanding crew.
Yeah, we did a
and
lot.
things like that.
That's correct.
And we kept rotating people over, but you took that burden off of me because I didn't have to come over and constantly check y'all.
Yeah, that's right.
I learned very early on that you had it under control, and I just needed to let you be.
Yeah.
And that was a great thing because that relieved pressure off me. But you found a role in that year. And we've had people do that every single year, I think, pretty much. I mean, you have some anomalies every once in a while, but
Right.
we've had some people like the year we had to lift the concrete bags. Those who were carrying, that's a great way to hurt your back, is to try and reach over and pick up the concrete bag when you've also got to carry it, because you're not thinking as well. You're tired, you're sore.
Yeah.
You just don't think about lifting it properly. So we had two ladies who took on the job of just lifting the bags onto the backs of the people carrying them. And I mean, they were able to focus on lifting correctly and do all that. And it was a lifesaver.
It was.
I think we would have all probably been in the hospital the week after had we not had that.
Yeah, the Lord blessed us that year because I don't know how we did what we did. It was, and we're able to like walk home, I guess, or get home without being in a stretcher. The power of prayer and God shined through that day.
Just to explain a little bit, we arrived at a mountain site that year, which was new for us. It was really our first year there, I think. And we got there, and you have to go across the river on this little cart, metal cage that you pull by a cable like this, and get across. And then you go up one to the peak of one mountain, and the site where we were going to work, you had to go down and back up over to it.
Yeah.
So there was a little valley and even a little stream and everything that we eventually built the bridge over.
Yeah.
And when we got there, they said, we're doing concrete, we got to get the concrete bags over there. And oh, by the way, the Jeep is broken. So,
No, not a fun day.
and it took us most of the week to move all those bags over. We took our time, we did it right. And again, I think when we were done, everybody had, all the locals picked their jaws up off the floor because none of them expected us to do it.
Yeah, they did not expect. They did not expect us to complete that task.
Yeah. And it's I think I was leading that year, and it was kind of like, there were some grumblings. And I basically said, we're going to get done what we can get done.
Yeah.
If we don't complete the task, that's fine. But we're going to do what we can along the way. And, we'll accomplish something. And we actually completed it, got some sand, and poured some concrete that way.
Yeah. Cut a lot of grass that year.
A lot of things happened that year. So, if you're thinking about going on a trip and you don't know what your purpose, what you're capable of doing, trusting God to find you a spot on that team to do something right. Because, like I said, it could be as simple as forcing Gatorade in everybody's hands every time they stop working to get them hydrated and keep them from hurting themselves. You just never know.
It could be the first aid. You're the person taking care of people. Or making sure people are taken care of. You're the person that, helps the leader, just stay sane and stay even keeled and looking for ways to take things off of them to make their decisions easier. It's just and the roles that we have within the team even beforehand, whether it's devotionals or things like that. Those are always great things. Everything isn't on the team leader. If you have a good team, people are contributing. Somebody's working on morning devotional. Somebody else can work on evenings and spread it out. And I think it helps bring the team together in the end, really.
And that's an important thing to know too, is there are other things to do other than planning vacation Bible schools or getting ready to do the work. There are things you need to take with you to do, such as devotionals.
Yeah.
And well, that first year we really stunk at one thing, and that was singing. We were horrible at singing as a group that first year because I had not done any practice.
Well, they always challenge. They wanted to hear us sing, and it's like, ooh.
We had some great singers in the group, but as a group collective whole, we had nothing. It was kind of embarrassing, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have devotionals that need to be done every single day you're down there. This is still, you're on a journey with God. And people need to sometimes decompress things they've seen, things they've heard while they're there.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these mission trips are going to expose especially teenagers, but also some adults, to some things they've never seen or never knew could happen. For example, some of the stories we heard about the way the boys were treated tore us up. I mean, it really does hurt you as a human being to know that other human beings are doing that to them, to these children, and that hurt us. And we had to spend some time, just about every night, allowing people to decompress a little bit.
Absolutely.
And get some of that out of their system. Talk about it with the other people there.
Yeah, because it was so horrifying that you can't put into words. And so just having everyone together, sharing the common feeling, I think, was a huge, I guess, therapy moment, right? Because if you had no place to go and no one to talk to and nobody with the shared experience, I don't know what the group could have done, or would have done, how it could have fallen apart.
If you were left feeling like I'm the only one feeling this, it would have been hard. All right, so some other things we have to do on the teams is the one that we hate the most sometimes, fundraising. Fundraising can be both fun and horrible. And it can consume a large amount of time that nobody knows about.
That's correct.
So what are your favorite type of fundraisers?
Well, what we've kind of migrated to, I guess, in the last 5 or so years is we're looking for things that we can do as a team, right? That build team unity, but also bring in funds. And I think we started out initially years ago with doing yard service, right? And we did a lot of small little items to bring the team together, right? And then we started to get a little more organized, but the whole point was get the team committed and to get the team involved in the process. We're working together hauling mulch, we're spreading mulch, we're digging holes, we're moving plants, so that, and some people are doing the plants and some people are doing the mulch, and so you start seeing how your team's gonna perform in the field, I guess, so to speak. On who can do things or who's comfortable doing stuff and how people work together, and everybody's committed. You don't have people just sitting in the back that, or what you talked about earlier, just coming for the vacation, right? Or if there is a vacation aspect of it, you've got to participate in these fundraisers, a portion of them, just to build team unity, but also to show your commitment almost to a certain extent. Because, we don't want necessarily somebody just to come and pay their way, right? That's not the purpose of the trip. It's to not just build a team, but to build a spiritual team that can share the events when they're done, and they can then go forth and share that with other people when it's all done. So that's one big one, and the other big one is our annual yard sale, right? That's hours upon hours of work, really, in that 1 week. There's some things that happen, weeks before, months before with the planning, and we used to take collections up weeks and weeks before, but as we got more efficient at it, I guess, everybody in the church knows it's coming, and so they can bring their stuff those 2 or 3 days before, and we're not moving it multiple times normally, and we're picking things up. But that doesn't just take the team, that takes alumni of the team, and alumni's siblings or alumni spouses to come help with the effort, but it's one of our most profitable, I guess. We're talking fundraising, so you've got to pay for it, but it's also one that brings the team together because everybody is just so swarming around the activities of a yard sale, laying things out, cleaning up tables when they're empty, taking up money at the checkout and things like that. It's just it's a huge undertaking. But those are kind of the two biggies that we do now, because they've become so efficient, or as far as hours in and dollars out, very, very, very good for us. But we will always try to dabble in other things that to see how they take. If they're a good team involvement, great. If they have a good return, that's great too. But the yard sales and the yard services are the things that really bring us together as a team and provide the ability for us to travel, to take the trip.
And things like the yard sale, also, there were opportunities for people who just wanted to help us and couldn't go on the trip. And they would come help us price, which is in my mind, one of the hardest tasks to just make yourself do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing anybody wants to do, but you have to do it.
Yep.
And there are quite a few people that come and just help us do that.
They do that. We have some that come and they bring baked goods.
Yeah.
Right? And so we can then have a little baked goods area and kind of a concession area during this yard sale that people can come and have a snack or cookies, or we'll sometimes try to do the chicken biscuits, and people can come in here and have a chicken biscuit and stuff like that. So just different ways to bring people in and get people involved. Really.
Right. Now, one of my favorites was always, it wasn't specific to Peru, but we used it a couple times for Tanzania, is Bids to Help Kids.
Yep.
And I love that one. It was a silent auction and a dinner. And the dinner function allowed people in the church to come sit, fellowship with each other. We have 4 services at our church. And so people get comfortable within their service sometimes. And that was a function in which people kind of cross-mingled across those services and met people that they may not even know were in our church, or people they hadn't seen for a while in the church. Sit down, have a dinner with them, and then have some fun bidding on some things for silent auction.
Yeah, and the teams would help serve, and we did not something similar, but we had that night at the opera one year where one of the team members, her brother was a trained opera singer. And so he came and donated his time, and we had dinner, and he had a performance, and that was, it was just amazing, because most people around here, I never would go to an opera on my own time, but to have him come and just blow it out the water was just a unique experience. I don't think that most people would have in their life.
Yeah. So, those are the type of fundraisers we like, and I think the reason why we both like them is because they're fellowship-based. And I believe fellowship-based fundraisers are more helpful in every aspect of what God wants us to do on these trips, about the fact that it allows people to spend time together, allows us to get the team to bond, allows people who want to be in the journey with us, even though they may not be able to go, they get to participate by being a part of these and feel like they're participating, not just giving money, but feel a participation level.
That's right.
All right, some of the other things we have to do along these trips. One of the things I've struggled with over the years, and like to hear your opinions on, photography and things like that. My problem is I see a lot of people spend so much time trying to photograph and document their excursion, their trip, that they sometimes are not in the moment of being there. And so the last mission team that came to Tanzania, since I was there permanently, I served as the photographer. They could still have their cameras, they could still take a personal picture too. But during the event of the day, I focused on trying to take a picture of every single team member several times, doing things with the kids, doing things with the adults. And that way they all had pictures of themselves doing stuff. But during the day, they were in the moment.
Yeah.
They were
intentional.
involved.
They were intentional
Yeah.
in what they were doing. Yeah. And it's a greater challenge nowadays than it ever has been. Because some people are very picture heavy. They want a lot of pictures, and so they're going to take every chance. And then there's some folks that just don't even think about it, right? And it, to me, you would think, oh, all the younger people are going to be sitting there taking all these pictures, and that's really not the case. In my experience, is that there might be some that are taking a lot of pictures, but there's some that they're just not normally picture takers, right? And so they're not going to do that on the trip. And I don't know that I've experienced any major issues with it, but it's something that, depending on the moment, whether it's appropriate or not, you want people engaged in what you're doing. So VBS, or if we're working on crafts with kids, you want to make sure everybody's engaged in that. And to be honest, and maybe it's a mistake, I haven't focused on that as a big issue, because I'm not a big picture taker myself, and so maybe I'm not thinking about it and how it impacts the group. But that's something to definitely have in the back of my mind.
It's nice too, because when we first started, we tried to collect all the photos everybody took, and then we'd create a CD and share them with everybody.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of felt like we had so much trouble getting pictures from people.
Yeah.
But doing something like this, you have the ability to collect and share them easier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one year we did do that with Billy on we went to the school to pour a concrete floor on like the 3rd level or something. And so one of us just gave the camera to Billy and said, "Here, take pictures."
Yeah.
And he took pictures of most everybody carrying at least a load of concrete in a 5-gallon bucket up the couple of flights of stairs there.
Yeah, that was. I don't remember any of those pictures if they took them. I think we've all wiped that event out of our brain. You got those pictures?
I got them. And then the importance of the pictures are the fact that we need to come back and share the story.
Yeah.
We have to share the story of what we did with the people who support us, but also the people who may be interested in future years. Because when you quit doing the story, when you quit coming back to telling, you can notice a drop off in new people, and especially in new younger people.
Right.
I think if they're not hearing the story of what you're doing, they're just going to stick with the things they hear about going on.
That's correct.
And not move on to the things that are just happening in the background. And I think that both of us have spent a lot of time trying to get ourselves and the team, not ourselves personally, but our teams in front of the church to do that.
Right. Yeah, I think I know I need to do more of that, especially with the youth. And it all sometimes it hinges on the youth leader to some extent, because some of them have pretty detailed plans for how they want to do things, and so they've already kind of got their routine, and trying to work our way into that is sometimes a challenge, but it's not impossible. I think the lifeblood is the younger generation, I think, to a certain extent. And I think from a picture, when you're talking about pictures, a picture of a mountain doesn't really sell it. It's a picture of that kid smiling and laughing and cutting up with another kid or with another team member that really kind of hits home when you're sharing your story. Like when some folks share their testimony of the trip and they do a slideshow, they're pictures of the kids laughing and the teammate wrestling with the kid and stuff, and that's what really converts people, I think, into supporting what you're doing.
A little side note, I have a story I like to tell about my time in Tanzania, about a young boy who used to walk with me and wrap his finger around my hand. And he was walking 2 miles to get a cup of porridge from the church. And so when our school started up, we went and grabbed him, and he was going to be a part of our school. And after about 2 years of 2 meals a day, regular love and attention, getting to play with the other kids and being social, I have a picture of him kind of like this, with his cup of porridge, and then I have the biggest smile on him as well. And that's those 2 pictures lead to a great story to tell people about the effectiveness of the school outside of just teaching them.
Yeah.
And the photos that we bring back are the same thing, I think. It's hard to, because we have gone on so much, but as I talk to like my parents and so forth, when they see those pictures, that makes them feel connected to what we did. Now, my parents have been to Tanzania and done some of the VBS, but they could never go to Peru and do the things that we've done down there. Yeah. You've heard a lot of concrete. Well, there used to be a rule. There always had to be a concrete project on our teams. I don't know if it's still a rule or not.
It's not a rule, but we don't shy from the opportunity. Sometimes it's breaking up concrete and not
It's as much
pouring
fun as pouring
concrete?
it, yeah.
Oh, no, it's not. Or if it's not concrete, it's digging up rocks and boulders, that are hard like concrete.
Yeah.
So, in those cases, maybe we give us credit for that.
Their name for their team is I Dig Peru, and that comes from one year they were digging trenches, and every time they asked the gentleman who was in charge if they were done, he said,
Un poco más, just a little more.
every single time.
Every single
It didn't care how much they dug out. He said a little more every time.
Yeah.
And somebody said, well, I came and I dug Peru.
Yeah. And so that's and so that's my email. I dig Peru at Gmail, right? And that's the name of our Facebook group that we share stories and stuff with. So it stuck, right? So that's kind of a neat little story, like you said.
Some of the other things we've experienced over those years, the Eco Lodge.
Does not exist, thank you.
The Eco Lodge fell down a couple of years after we slept in it one year.
Yeah.
It was fun because when we left, it all shook.
It all shook, that's correct.
You could scrape the surface of any board and find
Termite.
trails. And there was a board that connected the main body to the latrine.
That's correct.
And you had to walk across the board even in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we have managed to evade anyone
Falling off.
breaking something on that by falling off and through the whole trip. It's not figured out.
No, yeah, that was luck. And it's funny to see the things that we worked on that first year, and then when we're back 8 years later, we're redoing some of that stuff and refurbishing some of those things, rebuilding the raised walkway that we used those first few years, and it has since rotted out because of the jungle, and now we're replacing that 100-foot span of walkway.
We've had a lot of great experiences along that line. We've gone in the jungle hunting grubs.
Oh, good, that was you, not me.
I went in the jungle hunting grubs with the kids. I'm always up for a jungle ride. We have, hiked the concrete up and down the mountain. We have gone to waterfalls and taken showers under the waterfall. And we have seen some animals. We've had some good times. If somebody was asking you about the trips and were considering going, what would be the one thing you would tell them is the most important reason out of the things we've been talking about today? Is a good reason to go. I ask hard questions today.
You didn't prep me on that. It's not as much to me as a reason as you have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone. You have to be willing to be fluid. That's our saying, stay fluid, right? Because the plans in Peru are never the plans in Peru, that you have. But I think, you have to have, we said, a calling, or you have to make the decision to go, right? And to trust that God is putting you there for a reason. But then you can't just be holed up in your little cube and afraid or unwilling to step outside of it. You've got to go there with the idea of, I'm here to relate with these people, to experience with the boys and stuff like that, and be willing to, you don't have to step outside your comfort zone much. You don't have to get up there and dance and sing and, wrestle and stuff, but just spending time with one of the boys on the bench, talking to them, playing a card game, playing with a little toy or a ball, throwing it back and forth. It's, it's not complicated, right? But you've got to be willing to do that. And so that's what I'd say. So if you're going to come in there and just, it has to be your way, that's kind of counterproductive to what the team needs to be fluid. The team needs to respond to what God puts in front of us. And Scripture Union puts in front of us, but when they put something in front of us, it's really God putting it in front of us. And so that's what I would say. If you're not willing to have that kind of at least malleable experience, then maybe it's not the right place. Maybe it is. Maybe it's some other form of mission or whatever. Because we're not there for us. We're there to do what they need us to do, or what God needs us to do. So we don't dictate that.
It's important they know that up front, because if they go into this without knowing that up front, they're going to be sorely surprised.
Yeah, and
If they go into this knowing this up front, then if they don't want to do that, well, it's kind of nobody's fault but their own.
And there's years where people are like, oh, what's our schedule? What's our schedule? What's our schedule? I want to know the whole week's schedule. I want to be able to tell everybody what my schedule is. And it's like, you have to start very early and say, listen, we do this is our rough plan, right? Before we travel, this is what we think will happen. Well, when you get there and you're talking to the house parents, you've got to then plan your week. So, yeah, there's, 5 days there and 4 days are work days and 1 day is a kind of a day off to experience the local environment. But where that falls depends on the schedule of the boys at school or the schedule of the house parents. And so you might work a day and then be off and then work another 3 or 4 days, but that's what we have to express at the beginning, because it's never going to play out like you plan it, even from day to day. So it's like every evening it's talking with the house parents and figuring out, okay, tomorrow is this, and we've got this kind of work and then this kind of VDS, and you're okay, that's tomorrow. Okay, we set tomorrow in stone, so to speak, right? And then the next night it's okay, here's what the next day is going to look like. So very critical to be fluid and not too structured in your expectations.
I think that was my key word the first year. I told everybody if they weren't going to be fluid, just don't go, because you're going to be really sore about what happens. Because in honesty, there is a different concept of things like time in places like Peru, Tanzania, just about any underdeveloped country or even a mid-developed country. You're going to run into, they have a different concept of time than we do here in the U.S. or say in France, Germany, Canada, and so forth. And where we see time as a commodity, as a tangible time is money type philosophy, they do not. They do not see time as anything other than what they have in abundance and what they could just throw away if they needed to. Yeah. And so when you try and go on a mission trip into a country like Peru or Tanzania or Uganda, Kenya, El Salvador, Colombia, Panama, be prepared for that, because their concept of time is not yours. And it's probably closer to God's concept of time, I think, sometimes than it is ours. Because he says everything's going to happen in his time. And if you're not willing to just sit back and say, okay, you're in charge, please take control. Yeah. I'm just here to do what you tell me when you tell me and how you tell me to do it, type deal.
Yeah, we're not there to check off our punch list of items. It's here's a list. It'd be good if we did all this stuff, but it just dictated on the environment, and you get done what you can get done on God's time, really.
I mean, there have been times we've gone and we've had a list of things we thought we were doing, and when we got there, that list basically went in the trash can, and we got a new list of what they wanted us to do. For example, the year we did the bridge. Yeah. I mean, we were not expecting that at all, and it took a large consumption of time and energy to construct. So that was a different concept of what we had to do from the very beginning. It
took several leaders on that project too, didn't it?
It was a fun project, and I was happy they gave it to us.
One thing I have is that sometimes it's posed to me is, why do you do these trips, right? Are you trying to earn your way into heaven? Or are you trying to, make up for all the wrong you've done and be forgiven? And so, kind of back to you is, what are some of your, not go-to responses, but some of your thoughts on how do we share with people that's really not the purpose? I mean, people aren't doing this to get into heaven, so to speak, right?
And some of the people who may be watching know that I have a kind of dark history, and did a lot of things that I'm not proud of or want to ever have to do again. And when I first started trying to develop a relationship with God again, I came to mission work as a way to do that. I did not come thinking I was going to earn forgiveness. I'll talk about that a little bit. more here later, but I came there because I wanted to see if God still wanted me. And that's what I found through mission work, is not only did God still want me, he had a purpose for me that was tailored to the experiences I had been through. Those dark experiences he could take and make something useful out of those. But it wasn't about me earning forgiveness. It was about me repairing my relationship with God because I had broken it. And so I believe that God gave me the chance to do this mission work as a way to heal myself, a way for me to forgive myself for the things I had participated in and done, and to move forward in my relationship with him. And so mission work is not about earning forgiveness. The only way you get forgiveness is to accept the gift that Jesus Christ gave us. He died for our sins. He was resurrected to prove a point. If you don't accept those two things, you're not getting there. But he does give us missions that allow us to experience his will, to help us forgive others, to help us forgive ourselves, to help us see forgiveness in action a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important, that we're not doing mission work because it's something we have to do per se, but it's something we're allowed to do, in my opinion. I'm honored to be a part of it because the differences it has made in my life, the positive differences, I would almost compare it to almost a recovering alcoholic in some ways. I'm not wanting to diminish anybody's game there, but the change that they have in their life after they've been through the process and have become sober, and the new life they live on the other side, is much the way mission work has allowed me to progress in my relationship with God. And I'm forever thankful for that. Anything else for me?
Not at the moment.
Well, like I said, I'm here with Kyle Gordon today. Kyle is our leader of the Peru team, and I'm thankful that he has been with me today. I think we had a pretty good conversation. Any good stories you want to tell from the mission field? That we can share with everybody?
Well, there's some, but I can't mention names. You know, there's always
you don't have to.
There's always medical things that are sometimes funny after the fact, I guess, or when personalities start clashing. I guess there's some moments where toward the end of a trip, you know, people get a little antsy. You're starting to go home. You've been around folks all week, and you can get to an airport and get a little frustrated.
And some of those people are introverts.
And some people are introverts.
They need alone space to recharge their batteries, and they haven't had it.
And it's sometimes you're stuck in the middle of an airport with all these people close around you, and somebody's making all these outlandish statements that just grate on your nerves. You know, and so just to, you know, I can't really say any more details. But you know, those kind of things are great, and we've had struggles getting home sometimes. I know people get sick on the way home, and I remember coming into, I don't know where we landed, like
Atlanta,
New Jersey, I think, one time, and one of the team members was just deathly ill, and we had like a 7-hour layover. They had to wheel him off the plane into the Newark airport.
I wasn't there for that one.
No, and so he slept, and people. It was a great experience because people would go around and just keep checking on him, all the different. I mean, his mom was on the trip too, so that helps. But everybody else would kind of check, and then by the time we get back to Greenville, he's kind of worked his way through a lot of the really bad sickness, I guess. I don't even know, they probably wouldn't let him on a plane nowadays. But so those are kind of things that stick out. The layovers and just the travel, the bus rides to some of these sites that I thought I was going to die. You know, where you're taking these mountain roads in a double-decker bus at 60 miles an hour, and I'm sitting in the bottom where you can't really see out, and I'm just expecting one of these turns to just become weightless. You know, it goes over the edge, and you just wait. You know, it's like, but it never happened, luckily. Another travel experience was on the way back one time from one of those trips. The road was out, right? And we're at the top of the mountain, and it's like 25 degrees, and the road was closed because of ice, right? And so we sit there for like 8 hours in this bus, freezing to death. People trying to figure out what's going on.
Because we were dressed for the jungle. We were prepared for the jungle.
And it was icing, and we're there all evening, and then at 2 a.m, when I think it's the coldest, and the road's clear now all of a sudden, and everybody's saying we start flying, and it's just, you're like, wait a second, it's colder than when we started here.
Yeah.
I don't understand how the road's open.
I don't know what closed that road that year, but yeah, and it was even the situation where some guy who tried to start a fight with our driver.
Like a metal pipe and banged on the door. It was a lady, like an old lady.
It scared quite a few of our members, and we've had quite a few those type of experiences. We've had some in the layovers where we're sick, we're close enough to home. The one year we actually got vans and drove home
from Atlanta. Yeah.
That was a huge mistake on my personal part because I was way too tired to be driving from Atlanta to Greenville. So you have a lot of experiences and you have a lot of fun. I will say that first year especially, we were so tired the first night that anything that was said was funny. It was like being in middle school again almost.
Yeah.
It didn't care what happened. It was funny. And we would start a laugh riot across the entire thing. And we're not going to go into the jokes because they're not as funny if you weren't actually there.
Yeah.
But things we would never consider funny. And we were having such a good time laughing at all those that night.
And making up nicknames.
Yeah.
Everybody had their nickname.
You do a lot of silly stuff because you're just tired. You kind of lower your guard a little bit on all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. So mission trips are a lot of things. They're fun. They're adventurous. They get you out of your comfort zone. They sometimes allow you to interact and build team and become members of your church stronger. We had one young girl who joined our team, and she did it like her first year at our church, her second year, and she became a truly active member of our church through her participation in that, got her into choir, doing other things. And so it helped with her whole bonding and growing in the church type deal.
And it was a foundation, I think, for some folks we have that became like you, full-time missionaries.
We've actually had two different
group family units that have split off and done full-time missionary work. So that I would say Peru had a huge impact on that. For those.
Oh, I definitely think it did in both family units, mine and the other family that went somewhere that we can't name because of safety issues. But my short-term trips led me feeling a desire to be more involved and to be more, I guess,
full-time.
Just in that moment of being a part of it all and wanting probably a little bit more responsibility in it than you can get just going on short-term.
Yeah.
Even I'm really proud of the fact that we continue to go to the same group and work with them all the time because that fixed a lot of problems that a lot of churches have, in my personal opinion. That's all this is. That go to El Salvador one year, Colombia the next, Guatemala the next. They go to different locations. They never build those relationships with the groups they're working with. And sometimes I think that it doesn't make what they're doing vacations, but it makes it less hard to get so involved in that ministry that you feel
the connection.
Yeah, we would be heartbroken if we couldn't go back to Peru. We truly would.
And we kind of touched on it, but it's sometimes, this short-term mission, you're there and you think that you have to get this stuff done and you have to do this your way. And we talked about it being fluid. What it comes down to is that we're not going there to force our ways onto them. Because why don't we have a drill? Why don't we have this? Or why don't we have an electric sander? Or, why don't we have all these supplies and stuff that make this job so much easier? Well, that's just not how it's done. We're not there to force ourselves on them. We're there to serve them, to serve that community or that house, and to do things the way they want them done. And I think that's always a challenge because here in America, it's all about efficiency. If you work in a manufacturing environment, then you're thinking about, how can I eliminate the waste in this process? How can I be more efficient? And so you get to some of these places and you're like, what? You know, we've got to do this by hand? Wait a second, that's unheard of. Why don't we just go to the store and buy this drill? Why don't we go to the store? We can pitch in, we'll get it. And that's just not the way, I mean, because they can't maintain it when you leave, right? You know,
Sometimes they don't have electricity to run
if
it.
something happens, then then it's done, right? And I think that's something that we have to remember as leaders and as team members, is that we're there to serve them at their pace or at their method, not at ours. We're not there to force ourselves, I think, on the situation.
Right, and again, that goes back to how important it is to be in the moment of those trips. I guess sometimes I liken it to the relationship you have with children. It's not always about what you can cram into an event with them. It's about being present with them, you know, spending time with them. So our presence there a lot of times is much more important than what we get done as far as the work.
Yeah. But we still like to get stuff done. And that's
We
the
do,
problem.
yeah.
We still like to get stuff done, but
We're both big on productivity and all that
but
kind
to
of
think
stuff.
back, I just remember it's the nights and the evenings that we spent playing games and laughing and joking and doing dance competitions and all that stuff with the boys, mainly the first few years. We got spoiled. We're like, oh, you know, this is why we have such a strong affinity towards it. And we go to other sites nowadays, and the boys are going to bed early, and it's like, well, what happened? We don't get to hang out with them. You know, it's like you feel like they're taking away your candy because wait, the whole point is that we can come hang out with them. You know, and so you got to schedule more time and evenings with them and adjust your calendar and your schedule to be able to do that.
Right.
And that's one big change that over the last decade you can kind of see. Some of these sites, they're not used to that. The amount of teams that come through are just significantly less, like two, like us and one other team, right? And so they don't have this experience that we had when we first started, where, you know, 10 weeks in a row in the summer, this site had a different team, right? And so they had all these different groups that come and just inundated them with love and attention and stuff like that. Well, now it's us, you know, or one or two others, and I feel like they've pulled back a little bit because of that, which is unfortunate. So we try to force, you know, chances to interact, I guess.
All right. Well, I think that's our episode for today. I want to again thank you, Kyle, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
This is a new venture for me, so it was great to have my friend here to try and help me do this. So again, thank you. And with that, we'll see you at the next episode. Thank you.